It's almost Halloween, exactly the right time for Guillermo del Toro's creepy horror movie Crimson Peak. It stars Mia Wasikowska, Jessica Chastain and Tom Hiddleston, the perfect faces for a Victorian costume piece like this. It has an amazing looking old mansion, some very well designed ghosts, mysterious siblings and a lot of bloody reds in its color scheme. So is it a great horror movie? Well, almost. I think it's a mixed bag, because on one hand you have amazing visuals, the kind you expect from Del Toro and the reason why we love his style. But the story on the other hand is very predictable and nothing special at all. Also, you could almost say that the trailers were somewhat misleading, because it's not as much about ghosts as you could assume. After a little prologue and also after crimson-colored opening logos, we spent quite some time with your normal turn-of-the-century kind of scenes. The characters are introduced, there's a lush dinner party sequence, and you almost get the feeling you're watching a period costume piece instead of a horror movie about ghosts. I will say the slow opening has its charms, but 1, it's a little bit too long, and 2, it's all in yellow. Yeah, all in yellow, because yellow means this is old. And well, there's also a funeral scene, and that is blue, because blue means sad. Come on. The color scheme of a movie is always very important to me, and so this bothered me quite a bit. But having said that, the rest of the movie, say like 70%, looks absolutely beautiful. Because once we left this scenery behind and are taken to the mansion you know from the trailers, the colors looks amazing. So I think all that yellow and a little bit of blue, at least it works as a contrast in the end. So we get to this mansion called Crimson Peak because it's the home of the siblings Thomas and Lucille Sharp, the characters played by Hiddleston and Chastain. Edith, portrayed by Wasikowska, marries Thomas and they live happily ever after. Well, not really.
This is your home now.
One major flaw of the movie lies in the worn-out storyline. Right from the beginning it's pretty obvious that there's something very fishy with Thomas and Lucille, and all the revelations in the course of the movie are very cliché and predictable. Also, and that's one big also, the ghosts have almost no effect on the story. I think it would go a little bit too far calling them a red herring, because they are very important to the atmosphere of the movie and its style, but story-wise, I think it could have been handled way better. But let's come back to the positives, because after all I liked this movie. I had a good time with it and was also pleasantly surprised at moments. Not with the story, but with the level of blood and gore.
You have no idea what they do.
It has a few very impressive and downright brutal moments, and when you've seen Del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth, I think you might guess what I mean. I also like the way the ghosts were designed and how they moved. Even if it's CGI, I thought they looked great and they reminded me a little bit of Hellraiser. The production and set design overall were just a blast to look at. When they arrive at Crimson Peak, it's like diving into another world, full of old horror motifs, but arranged with the love and craftsmanship of a true artist like Del Toro. Especially the way they handle the color red. The mansion isn't built on normal ground but on red clay, and that clay colors everything red. So it has a reason why the movie and the mansion is called Crimson Peak. It looks like blood is coming from the floor and through the pipes, and when it's snowing at the end you have your white surroundings and a bloody red path to the doorway of the house. There's also a lot of real blood and it gets quite messy in the end. Crimson Peak is rated R for bloody violence, and I think that's awesome.
What do you want?
So my final verdict: great atmosphere, beautiful visuals, impressive color scheme for about 70% of the movie, and some really nice and gory effects. On the downside, there are no real surprises and the story itself is quite boring and predictable. So what are your thoughts about the movie? Were you frightened? Could you handle all the gore in the end? And what do you think about the story? Please tell me in the comments below, and like always I promise I will answer you all.